April wasn't quite as successful as March, but I don't think anyone expected it to be. March was insane, if you want to see that one. However, I had a really good reading month still in April. I still managed to blast through quite a lot of books and I'm really happy with what I managed to read. So, starting with the stats, across 13 books I read 4,753 pages. So again, like 2,000 less than last time, but I'm still very happy with that amount, and I'm very happy with 13 books. It's a much more normal number. And my biggest book was 740 pages, and that was Sepulchre by Kate Mosse. And my oldest book was from 1928, and that was All Quiet on the Western Front by Erich Maria Remarque, which I always say wrong. But those were my biggest and my oldest books. I only listened to just over 90 hours of audiobooking this month, a lot less. I wasn't at work for as many days this month with bank holidays and days off, and I was up in Scotland for a while. So that just means that I didn't get my chance to audiobook and work like I usually do, which is the way that I best get through my audiobooks. I fly through them when that happens. So that's probably why this was a little bit lower, and I also wasn't squeezing in as many small audiobooks as I did last month. Then for the format, I need to read the notes for this one. So format, I had 2 hardback books, 3 paperback books, 2 mixed, so I read them physically and via audio, 1 ebook and 5 audiobooks. So audiobooks are still saving my life right now. And then for nationality, I had 2 books by a Lenape author, 4 books by English authors, 6 books by American authors, and 1 book by a German author. And then just before I dive into the books that I finished, me and Olivia from Olivia Savannah made some decent progress in Great Expectations by Charles Dickens this month. And we read 90 pages of it, which doesn't seem like a lot, but we were both very busy. I had a bereavement, unfortunately, this month, so there was a lot of times where I wasn't reading, both for travelling up for various reasons and also just because it wasn't the right time. Olivia had her sister's hen do, her other sister's birthday, she had work events, so we had a lot of days where we weren't reading, so I feel like 90 pages is great considering all of that. And we don't have too much left to go, so we're both hoping we'll finish it next month. And then onto the books that I actually finished. So first up is Elatsoe by Darcie Littlebadger. I borrowed this from the library and unfortunately did have to give it back. There was a due date before I could film this, so you're getting a photo. I really enjoyed this. This is one that I have heard about for ages around BookTube, Bookstagram, all of those, and it just sounded absolutely fantastic. So when I was in the library for a book talk for a completely unrelated book and I spotted it, I took it out straight away. I read some of this at the end of last month, and then the rest of it at the very beginning of this month. It's so beautiful. It's a story about a young girl who has magical powers and can call upon the dead, and uses those powers in order to solve the mystery of her cousin's so-seeming accidental death that wasn't as accidental as first thought. I will say that this is supposed to be a YA book and it really reads like a middle grade. I thought it was a middle grade, I think someone else said that, and so I went in expecting middle grade, had a great time. The characters are like 17. So it's meant to be YA, it reads like middle grade. Just go in expecting middle grade, just ignore the fact that the character's a bit older, it's fine, and you'll have a fantastic time. That's like my only complaint with the book really, is that it does read much younger than it actually is. But I thought that the stories were incorporated beautifully into it. I loved learning about the Lenape like story and tales and folklore, and having that interwoven into this seemingly contemporary world with some fantasy twists. Then I picked up Regenesis by George Monbiot. I actually ended up listening to a lot of this via audiobook and I really enjoyed it. It was read out loud by George himself, so always love when the author narrates their own work. This is a really interesting book. I went into it for some reason assuming it was all about veganism and how it's better for the planet. And whilst that is touched upon, that is not the aim of this book. What is wrong with me? This is all about how the way that we currently consume our food and the way it's currently produced is not sustainable and is negatively impacting the environment, the people, all of that. And I think it's done really well. This is focused on Britain, it's by a British author, he's an author for The Guardian, so it is very much UK based, but he does touch upon the world because our food is globally sourced here in the UK, if you didn't know. And I really enjoyed the deep, in-depth case studies that he did, spending time with small-scale farmers who are trying to farm in a sustainable manner. It's much less profitable, but it's much better for the land and you get much better results food-wise. It tastes better according to everyone that tries it. So, This was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I think it's really accessible as well. Obviously the man is a Guardian newswriter usually, so he can write very well for a general audience, and I really do recommend picking this one up if you are interested. Then next up I read Witches Abroad by Terry Pratchett, one of the very few Terry Pratchett books that my other half doesn't seem to own. I think it may be the only one, so I'm going to have to try and find a second-hand copy of that for him. So I listened to this via audiobook. Great choice. The audiobook is fantastic. There's technically 3 narrators. You have one who does death across everything, as far as I know, another man, and he does all of the footnotes that are so often in Pratchett's books, and then, at least for this book, because all of the characters are female, it was narrated primarily by a woman, and her accents for all of the different characters were done brilliantly. It was such a fun way to experience the read that I'm tempted to do the rest of the Discworld books via audio, even though I have access to all of the rest of them. So that's how good the audiobook was. This was a really fun story. I don't know how much of that was the audiobook and how much was the book, but it's a really fun witches story. Of course I can't spoil it too much, but it's a lot of fairy tales interwoven into the Discworld following the 3 witches. It was fantastic. Then, when I read The Toll and I put up my little review on my Instagram story, Becca from Becca in the Books let me know that if I didn't read the short stories, the Gleanings, sooner rather than later, it wasn't really going to be a great time. So I picked it up as soon as I could via audiobook, and I am glad that I did. She's right. For the stories that actually relate to characters that are in the main books, I would have forgotten that they were characters, I would have forgotten their relevance, I would have forgotten everything. So I was very, very glad I picked this up. There are some very weird stories in here. Some are really brilliant, and I really love how they played with the aspect of the scythes, with the immortality, and we get to see a bit more from earlier in the setup of this kind of dystopian world, and also from later. So I really enjoyed getting more viewpoints, but some of the stories were just quite odd. But I had a good time. I had a really fun time listening to the audiobook. I think I ended up giving this 4 stars. So it's fun, it's a great addition to the world. The audiobook is absolutely fine, no issues with that one. So I do recommend it if you are curious, and it does add more depth and more life overall into the universe that Shusterman has created that can only be added by these short extra stories, but some of them are quite weird. Then by Mekawi, Watson-Singleton and Dawson, I read Beyond Fragility. This one I read as an ebook arc from NetGalley. I do not think you should get this in any format other than physical. Multiple reasons for this. One is that there are sections for you to write, and I know you can annotate in a Kindle, but it's not the same. Also, on top of that, being able to flick backwards and forwards between sections is very useful for this book. So it is an anti-racism book. It's all about kind of teaching you to overcome some obstacles that, as a white person, hello, you are likely to face when trying to expose to others more anti-racist ideals. But the way that they do this is through acronyms. And whilst acronyms are known for being very good at helping people remember things, they are all acronyms. And so they'll reference like the last chapter, but they'll reference it by its acronym, and I'm like, come on, ladies, I have forgotten already what that acronym stands for. So it would be helpful to have a physical copy to flick back and to see and to go to different things. Then, my biggest book of the month, Sepulchre by Kate Mosse. Because this book is big and because it's historical fiction is its primary genre, I left this for a while. I'm very much not that into huge historical fiction books, but I'm glad I finally did read it. And it does have a little sprinkling of fantasy on it where it interconnects the 2 timelines. One is in 1891 and the other one is in 2007. Now, the way that Kate Mosse writes these female main characters is more suited to a male author in the 1970s. It's all about how, oh, she's so light and so dainty and she's so beautiful and she didn't even know it, and the men just swoon over her and she doesn't realise. Fuck off. These are supposed to be strong women, and they're all like, I mean, for one of them it makes more sense. The woman in the late 1800s. She is looked after by her mother and her older brother. She is 17, so, you know, just being exposed to society, it makes a bit more sense for her to be this delicate little damsel. However, the one in 2007 is supposed to be a strong, independent woman. What the fuck is it? Yeah. I wouldn't have been surprised if Kate Mosse had rung up Ken Follett and asked him to describe these 2 women, and then just put that text in there. That is, was not a fan. I'm gonna stop, because I will just rant about this book. I did give it 3 stars. Like, I did still enjoy the story, but there was so much more potential. Disappointing. Even though it was still enjoyable, disappointing. especially for 740 pages. The opposite of disappointing. All Quiet on the Western Front by Erich Maria Remarque. Oh my gosh, this book. I didn't think I was gonna love this. I think this was my TBR wheel pick, and I was like, oh god, when I first got it I was like dreading it. I'm gonna like have to read this really difficult book, and it's difficult but it's beautiful. Brian Murdoch does a fantastic job at the translation. I've never read this in the original German and would struggle to do so, so I don't know obviously about the original text, but at least for this translation he's made it so readable, it flows so beautifully, the prose is fantastic. I struggled to put this one down, but I made myself read it in sections because it is a lot. And we are following young German boys in World War I as they are enlisted and they go to the trenches and they experience the horrors of war. This is utilising Remarque's own experiences as a young German boy in the trenches in World War I, and it is horrific and eye-opening, and it's beautiful. This is just perfect. This is potentially one of my favourite books of the year. There is a reason it is a modern classic. Amazing, amazing. Another 5-star read, and this one was my other difficult read that I picked out, this time from the TBR jar, and that is Know My Name by Chanel Miller. This is her memoir. This woman was sexually assaulted on the Stanford University campus, and this is all about her experience with that. I knew it was bad, okay? I knew that it was going to be bad, but some of the stuff that she went through is actually ridiculous. Like, the way that she found out that she had been assaulted. Any review I have of this will be inadequate. Any review. But this is written really, really well. It really gives us an insight into Chanel's own inner thinkings and inner workings while she's trying to deal with this legal system, but also still have a life and still have a relationship, both romantic and with her family and friends, who she tells, who she doesn't, how this disrupts everything. She ends up broke with no job because she constantly has to be free for these continuously rescheduling court appointments that are just pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, and so she's rescheduling flights and having to book extra time off work and eventually just stopping work. And it's a huge imposition on her life, and it really makes it clear why so many women do not come forward. One, the sentence that her abuser got was ridiculous and insulting and quite disgusting, and that already will put some people off, but on top of that it ruined her life for 2 years. More than 2 years, but still, like, it ruined her life for 2 years. Absolutely decimated everything she had worked towards. But she did it because she knew that she was one of the women who was strong enough to do so, and she knew that she needed to do this for other women. And she is one of the strongest women I've heard of. This is fantastic. It's her. It's a girl talking to you. She's about my age now, roughly, and she's just telling you about this awful experience, and it is a privilege to be able to listen. So this is a fantastic book. Amazing. Then I read a romantasy book. This was sent to me by the wonderful folks over at Tor, and this is One for My Enemy by Olivie Blake. This was my first Olivie Blake. I really wasn't sure what to expect from it, and it is a Romeo and Juliet retelling. I have many, many thoughts about this. I have my full written review up on Goodreads if you'd like to go and see it, because there's a lot. I have my reviews up for all of these books on Goodreads, and yeah, it's a lot, but positives and negatives. So, positives. I had a good time. I was reading this really quickly. The chapters are really short. It really keeps your attention going and going. And there was Russian, like, folklore interwoven into this, and I know almost nothing about Russian folklore, so I can't speak to the accuracy or how well this is portrayed. I can, however, speak to its entertainment value, and I did enjoy seeing that kind of interwoven and adding into the magical aspect of this book, alongside the kind of like crime families in New York battling each other. So that was good. The romance, I don't feel qualified to speak on. I don't really care for romance. I liked the couples that were together. It was interesting to see it develop. I don't know, man, that's not my thing. Yeah, it was fine. One of them was a bit insta-lovey, but obviously it's a Romeo and Juliet retelling, so you are expecting insta-love. I've seen some people complain about that. I'm like, come on, man, it's a Romeo and Juliet retelling. Even I'm not mad about it. And the other one that is more long-term is also based off of Romeo and Juliet, but I think it's done really beautifully and really well developed. So I guess I did have some things to say about the romantic relationships. I was disappointed that we follow the Antonova sisters, and they have this like little boutique little shop where they sell, you know, like body baths and bath bomb. Body baths? What the fuck is a body bath? Concerning, that's what it is. Bath bombs, etc. at their shop, and they're infused with magical properties that the people don't know, and so they use them, they have a wonderful time, they come back, they buy more. I wanted more from the shop. Like, that. Please someone write me a cozy fantasy based around that shop, because oh my god, I would read the shit out of that. On top of it, the Antonova sisters all have different magical powers. There's 6, 7? I think 6 sisters, and they all have different magical powers that all manifest in different ways, and whilst we get to see some of it, I would have loved to see more. Basically, the world that Blake has written around this Romeo and Juliet retelling is fascinating to me, and I would love more of it. I want more world building. I don't care about the people, which is interesting because I'm usually very character based in my reading. I found I always thought I was plot based, but I'm not. I'm character based, and so you would think that I would not. No, I need more from the world, man. Like, you build up something so interesting. Give me more of it. So yeah, I didn't love it. I gave this a high 3 stars. I will be reading the Atlas 6, which I'm very curious about now, especially now I know that this is very readable and very pick-upable, so hopefully that'll be the same for the Atlas 6. But it was very, very interesting, and thank you again to Tor for sending this along to me and having me on the book tour. Book tour. I'm a child. Then, in a twist of fate, I was looking on NetGalley, which I need to stop doing, and I saw Sheine Lende, which I'm probably saying wrong, but it is a prequel to Elatsoe by Darcie Littlebadger, and obviously I just read Elatsoe, so decided to pick this one up via audiobook and was accepted for it. Thank you very much, NetGalley. I didn't enjoy this one as much as Elatsoe. I feel like it isn't written as middle grade-y, so it is a bit more YA, which is good, but the characters aren't as well developed and there's a lot going on in the story, and I feel like Littlebadger struggles to weave this all into one cohesive tale. There's a lot of little bits going on, a lot of loose ends that are never cleared up. For example, if you end up reading it, the grandfather. I won't say anything more because I don't want to spoil it, but like, what the fuck's up with that man? Like, what's up with him? I don't know. No one knows. You're not given any sort of closure about it, and if this was book 2, book 3, book 1 in a series, it would make more sense. But this is a prequel, we have already read the next book, we still don't know what's up with this guy. But I still did enjoy the interweaving of the folklore of the Pratchett people. I really enjoyed, we visit more like of the underworld and look more at the ghosts and see more about that. And it is about Elatsoe's family, so that was really enjoyable, getting to see them in the past. So I did still really enjoy it. I think I gave it a high 3 stars. I did have a good time with it, and if you've read Elatsoe, I would definitely recommend it. It is a fun addition to the world. It's just unfortunately not a perfect book. I'll be nice and give this one 2 stars. A Study in Drowning by Reid. This was one of my... oh, I've got a mark on it. Oh well. Have I? I don't know. This was one of my Goldsborough books. I should have cancelled this one. I almost did because I thought it was Elatsoe, I think. I thought it was her, and I got them mixed up, and I didn't like Air Awakens, so I was like, oh, I should have got rid of it. I should have just So I ended up listening to this via audiobook, which is good because it meant I actually got through it. You know how I complained about the characters in Sepulchre? Dear fucking Christ. So whilst the character that we follow here has undergone trauma, and so that does then make her meeker, and that is acceptable, understandable, that is fine. Everything else about her is, she's like the perfect Mary Sue. She's like, again, I'm so beautiful, but I can't see it. I'm so smart, but I think I'm so dumb. Nobody understands me. I'm artistic, but I'm forced into a non-artistic role. Who is this young man? The whole thing is... Unfortunately, I will not read anything else written by Reid because dear fucking god, this will be going in my unhaul pile. This can go to a different home that is not mine. My penultimate book is one I have been working on for a very long time, and that is Short Stories in Swedish by Olly Richards. I've been reading this for months. Luckily I finished it now with me going to Sweden this month, like in May. But yes, finally read this one. This is what it says in the tin. It's a load of different short stories in Swedish, across different genres, just to try and keep people interested. It has a summary of each chapter, it's got like words to learn, and you have to answer questions at the end of each chapter to make sure that you are actually understanding what's in it. I despised reading this. That is not the book's fault. I am a very, very quick reader in English. Very quick reader. And reading this really opened my eyes to how slow reading can be. For some people, obviously the vast majority of people who are reading in their native tongue will not be reading this slowly. However, it was an extreme that made me realise, oh dear God, it's such a slow process. It's so frustrating. It's so difficult to actually just sit and read because I don't understand what's happening. And now I feel bad about anyone who struggles to read because I get it now. It took me reading something in a second fucking language, you stupid bitch. Regardless, in terms of the book itself, which is what we're actually here for, I'm probably going to rate this 3 stars. The stories are really weird, which, like, in the same way that Duolingo does, like, weird shit to try and get you to remember things, because, like, oh, it's wacky, you might remember it, which doesn't work for me particularly well with foreign languages, but that's what this one does as well. Some of the stories I was really enjoying, some of them less so, as you expect in a short story collection. So yeah, this will get 3 stars. I do think that it is a good way of learning a language. I'm actually thinking of getting the Italian version of this for my mum. She will take even longer than me to read it because she doesn't really enjoy reading at all. However, I think it is a really good learning tool. So if you're looking at it for that, I do think it does very well. They have these in lots of different languages, like a surprising number of languages, including like Icelandic. But yeah, so I do think this is quite a good language learning tool, and I need to improve my Swedish, because dear God. And my final book of the month, and that was another one sent to me by the wonderful publishing department over at Tor, and that is Can't Spell Treason Without T by Rebecca Thorne. So this was originally self-published and got so big that Tor is picking this one up. I have been wanting to read this for a while, especially Hannah from the Bookworms Feast. She read the indie published version and has been raving about it. So I already wanted to pick this up, and getting the chance to read this edition, I grabbed it with both my little sticky hands. This is so much fun. This is so gorgeous. In the acknowledgements, Rebecca Thorne says that she was inspired to write this story at all by reading Legends and Lattes. If you enjoyed Legends and Lattes, you will enjoy Can't Spell Treason Without T. It is not the same, but it's very similar. It's the same vibe. It's the same cozy fantasy vibe, cuteness, enjoyableness. I just had such a fun time reading this. I've had a bit of a rough month, and so this was a really nice thing to kind of slip me back into reading, just something, obviously there are stakes, the same as Legends and Lattes, but something so cozy and so sweet, and it was just, it's just so good. I can see why this got picked up by Trad Publishing, I can see why everyone loved it when it was indie published, and it's a series. I have not gotten Bookshops and Bone Dust yet, which I need to get, and I will be picking up every single book in this series. Oh my god. I loved it so much. Please don't come out until my book buying ban is done, because I need to buy them all in hardback. This is just so much fun. You've got dragons, bookshop, tea, a female-female relationship, you have male-male relationship that I think exists, but and wonderful community, and the magic. It's just done really well. I really like it. It's so cute. And yes, my bookmark is in it. I'm going to tell you this right now. It is the 30th of April. I have not finished this book yet, and I am still... I know I'm going to love it. I know I'm going to adore it, and I will finish it tonight. But yes, I'm filming this on the 30th, so it's not done quite yet. But it will be, and I'm really looking forward to finishing work. I'm doing this on filming on my lunch break, but I'm really looking forward to finishing work, so I can sit and read this. I'm going to have such a good time this evening. And once again, I struggled to fit this all in the frame. This is my reading for April, which I think is pretty damn good. I'm pretty happy with that. Again, it's not as good as March. Was anything going to be as good as March? No, never. That was never going to happen again. But I still had a really great reading month, and yeah, I think I read some fantastic books. Let me know if you are going to pick up Can't Spell Treason Without T now, or if you've already picked it up when it was indie published, because this is just so cute that I cannot. I hope that you folks have had a wonderful month. Let me know in the comments down below specifically, how many books have you read this month? Mine is 13, apparently. I counted them before, I've not counted them again. I hope it's 13. I am going to put this big heavy book stack down now and go eat my lunch. Thank you for watching, folks, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!